They signed to A&M Records. 10 days later, they get dropped. And it doesn't mention it here, but the reason they got dropped was because I think they were celebrating at their offices for getting the deal or whatever. Somehow, a bar fight erupted. Sid Vicious stabs some engineer in the face with a bottle, and then they get dropped from A&M. Good reason, I would say. That's a pretty good reason.
That's a good reason. That's a better reason than swearing.
Welcome to Every Album Ever with Mike and Alex. My name is Michael Mansour, and I'm joined as always by my festive co-host Alexander Volt. Say hello.
Hello.
This is Every Album Ever, the podcast where we listen to every single album in the world, one artist at a time. That's a whole new discography per episode, including itty bitty, cheating, tiny discographies like this one. And we'll be discussing every one album by
the Sex Pistols.
Now, people who like this show might think we're cheating, and we are. We're not cheating, okay? It's an important band.
Yes.
And for once, the first time maybe ever in this entire show's history, we're not cashing in on a one album discography because we're behind schedule.
Yeah.
We're actually on schedule. We just thought it was time to finally talk about Sex Pistols.
Yes, it is been, it's been on the what if schedule for a long time.
Our big schedule, yeah, our massive list that we haven't. That list is just as big today as it was when we first started.
Partially because of all you lovely people that listen to us and subscribe to Patreon.
Please
so that padded out the list quite a bit. But yeah, it's a big band. It's intimidating to talk about because what is there to say that
nothing? We're not going to add anything interesting. Tune out.
It's just if you like us, this is finally our 2 cents on the album. And in the history of the podcast, I'm glad we kind of use those bands to find our voice and our groove early on.
Yeah, the bigger names. Before we settled on the niche thing that we like to do with all the bands that nobody cares about except for a select few.
But those select few like us, thankfully. So
for the most part.
Yeah. I also realized how little I actually know about the actual Sex Pistols.
Same here. I knew a little bit. I knew like the general bullet points, but a lot of these stories are brand new to me because they're one of the bands that have been so overplayed and pushed on me for so long that even when I was in my punk phase in my teenage years, I was still like, I'm past the Sex Pistols. All right.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Tervi Cadet from Finland. And it's still a fun history. It's a really wild history. It's really interesting. I hate Sid Vicious more now than I ever did before. Learning more about him, I really, really can't stand the guy.
Yeah.
Love John Lydon more than ever. And I definitely love Steve Jones more than ever.
I hate John.
I love him. I think
more than ever.
He's been more consistent. Everyone thinks that he went right wing. He's been the most. It's so wild. If you listen to what he's saying, he's basically repeating the same thing that he did in the 70s. It's just the world looks different and he's more crotchety. So it comes out weird. But I think he's misunderstood.
I think it's always come out weird. But yeah, it is a very youthful band. I think it is for young people. Because you get a little bit older and maybe you start liking things like PIL or
pill
whatever.
Limited,
yeah. Maybe maybe you like the complexities more of a Minuteman.
Minutemen are the shit. Check out that episode.
So
well, they're essentially one of the first punk bands ever, obviously, and it's a lot more like a more jagged New York Dolls type thing. It's not quite as rock and roll formulaic, but it's definitely like all the songs feel the same and they're very upbeat and I hesitate to use the term poppy, but they're not like Ramones poppy, but they are like upbeat and fun. It's hard to like find anything offensive about it now, of course, because we have millions of years of growth, I guess. But
I did not realize there was beef between the New York Dolls and the Sex Pistols.
I didn't either, but also, who didn't the Sex Pistols have beef with? I mean,
everybody.
Yeah, they hated the Ramones. They hated, well, who, I don't know. It's the first thing that came to mind. They did hate the Ramones, though. At least Johnny Rotten did. But also, it's fascinating because they were like the most obnoxious group of kids who was like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck that. I mean, the foundation of punk, I guess. But Lydon early on still had like really good taste in music. He was a big Can fan. Check out those episodes. And other stuff that I'm blanking on now. That was like, that explains Pill afterward. Explains why Pill was such an interesting band.
Strange, unique band.
Yeah. And also explains, it doesn't really explain the fucking the angstiness. I don't fucking know. They were poor. There was nothing culture wise. There was no hope or prospects in the part of the world that they lived at that time in history. And it just sort of made sense that punk as a thing would emerge, except the thing that really was the most entertaining, ridiculous, fucked up and shitty, but necessary. Malcolm McLaren. McLaren, rather.
Yeah, that's a name I was not familiar with until doing this episode, but apparently had a huge impact on the band.
He was the Sex Pistols. The fifth member who was not he was their manager, was like the quintessential scumbag music manager, greedy guy, stealing money, fucking lying, screwing people over, getting sued.
I haven't watched that show. I don't know if I ever will, but it's a shame.
That's right. What is it? It was on
FX.
That's right.
It's a shame they didn't get Paul Giamatti to play him, because I just want him to play every sleazy manager in a musical biopic.
I don't see why not. Him or Joe Pantoliano, like in La Bamba.
Oh, dude. Oh, Joey Pants.
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
Also, La Bamba, welcome to the Criterion Collection.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's only a matter. Is it just time that gets those things
I feel like they try to preserve things that are have either like artistic integrity or
say no more. La Bamba's a masterpiece.
I've actually never seen it.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
I've seen it way too many goddamn times.
Yeah.
Dude. Then again, I did grow up in East LA, so it makes perfect sense.
Or that are like criminally like overlooked and this not being taken care of properly. So I think La Bamba fits that thing, and where it was like is a major motion picture, but it's not treated with the same like respect Saving Private Ryan is, for example.
When it should be getting more. You heard Alex.
Should be getting more.
So Malcolm McLaren, he basically, he doesn't form the band. Steve Jones and I believe it's Paul Cook. You know what? I'm forgetting who initially formed it. Steve Jones for sure. It was Paul Cook on drums. Basically, McLaren is the guy who gathered everyone else. He's the one who found John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, whatever. He found him. Who was it that said? Apparently, McLaren's lady friend Vivian Westwood. She spotted John Lydon. He had like green hair, and he was wearing a Pink Floyd shirt, but has the eyes of the members cut out. And he wrote in his own writing, "I hate" on top of Pink Floyd. And she spotted him, was like, "You should get him." And apparently, there might have been I think she said at some point that she was actually talking about Sid Vicious, whose real name was John, and that he mistook him for Lydon, and it was like, I don't know how true that is.
Yeah,
I think that'd be funny, and also bad because Johnny Rotten's an infinitely better singer, and it has more of a Sid Vicious was just a junkie.
Sure.
But anyway, he found him that way. He also, I think, Glen Matlock, the original bassist, worked at the same shop as McLaren. If I could be fucking all this stuff. Who knows? Go read it for your damn self. That's not why you're here. I'm just gonna run through this backstory.
I thought you would have this down pat.
I liked the Sex Pistols plenty as a kid, but
yeah.
I kind of jumped over them to go to hardcore. Like the only exception of that me jumping over to hardcore was The Damned. The Damned was a band that I invested time in and then went to hardcore. But Sex Pistols, I just sort of skipped them and enjoyed them in passing. They were around when I was a little kid, like too little to like Nirvana age, when I was like, 6, 7. So
every band you listened to, you were too young for.
Exactly. You know how too young I was for Sex Pistols? I couldn't.
Were you like in diapers?
No. But I couldn't comprehend how the album title made sense as a sentence. Like, never mind the bollocks. Here's a sex. I didn't understand how that could be processed as a sentence. I didn't know what it could possibly mean.
You got British family too.
I do. But it made none of the words made any sense. The phrasing of it made no sense. Yeah. That's how you're too young. But anyway, McLaren gets Matlock in there. Matlock and Lydon. Matlock writes all the music. He writes all the music, okay? And I'm emphasizing this because he's not in the lineup that everyone knows, of course.
Yeah.
He writes all of the music. I think John Lydon writes most of the lyrics, if not all the lyrics. I think Matlock wrote some lyrics, but it's mostly Lydon. And he writes all that. They do a bunch of stuff. They have a couple singles, blah, 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 blah. And then he gets replaced. He leaves. He's butting heads with John Lydon. He's butting heads with McLaren a lot. They push him out. And the quote is because he liked the Beatles too much or he liked Paul McCartney too much. They keep throwing that quote around. I don't know how true that is because he did leave. He says he left of his own volition. They get Sid Vicious in there who can't play bass, who's a crazy junkie. He's abusive. He starts bar fights. He has a tendency to stab people with broken bottles. And then the whole Nancy thing where it seems like he killed her. It's unproven. And then it's all, we can talk about that later, but
I have not looked into that in a while.
We'll talk a little bit about it. It's fucking gnarly. He stunk. And I only say that because he was recruited specifically because of the look. Most people I think know us by now. He was, they did everything in their power to keep him out of the studio because he couldn't play.
Yeah.
There are rumors that certain shows, his bass wasn't even plugged in. It's not, I think it was, I think it's been debunked. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but I think it's been debunked. He did record bass tracks for Bodies. And then as soon as he left, Steve Jones went and overdubbed over them. And just, they're still in the mix, I think, but you can't hear them. So McLaren does all this stuff. He's orchestrating everything. He's a fucking psychopath. Things blow up, but that's like the synopsis, fucking 5-paragraph history of the band. But we do have more from our history guy, Tom Osman, who you should all go support and follow. He has some info here from the Sex Pistols official website, as well as this article from Far Out Magazine called "Every Band or Artist Who Saw That Infamous Sex Pistols Gig," which is a funny little article. So this timeline, he got this timeline directly from the website, and Tom notes here. He says, timeline from the official Sex Pistols website, not as willfully misleading as the No Means No one, it must be assumed. Check out that episode where their website is completely fabricated and it's all fiction. Maybe hints of truth in there, but and then he says, by the way, I don't know if we're playing this game, but Steve Jones is my favorite Sex Pistol by a mile. I get it. That dude is really funny and aged like a fun uncle. Love him.
Yeah. It's probably most people's.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I remember even like a long time ago, Russell Brand had this really awkward talk show on FX where they tried to do it live, and it was weird. Like things are weird when you know it's live. And it was kind of clunky. It wasn't that great, but it had like a lot of merit. There was like, he tried to have dialogue between these really ideological opposites, and he would give each people like a debate. It was interesting, but the reason I bring it up is because Steve Jones was the house band. He wasn't, he was the band. He was just a guy on a couch with an electric guitar, and he played the intro music, and he'd do some banter. He brought in his own bits and like jokes, and he was genuinely funny and likable on there.
He might have to be a witness in court soon.
Maybe. Not proven yet though. We'll see. Check back on this video in a year and see.
It's pretty fucking grim.
Oh, I know, but we'll see. Tom also notes here, he says, do not ever doubt my ability to insert Coil, the band Coil, into the notes of a seemingly unrelated band. Many viewers may not be aware that Coil's Peter Christopherson, in his previous guise as a photographer, actually took the first promotional photos of the Sex Pistols back in 1976. Did not know that.
There we go.
Coil's a fucking interesting band. I've only heard a little bit, but they are incredible. And he goes on to say, he says, I think it's in the book England's Hidden Reverse, where it tells the story of Christopherson having been recruited to design the front window of Malcolm McLaren's sex store. That's a clothing brand that was really paramount to that whole British scene at the time. He says, from what I remember, Christopherson had created a ghoulish setup with severed and or burned limbs that looked so realistic they had to scrap the whole thing.
Well, I bet Euronymous of Mayhem that made his store look like a Halloween store.
I bet. I know. Although I don't think Euronymous very much liked having customers at his store. Check out that episode.
I think he's a hypocrite. There's always like more to, I think he's a I think that dude loved money.
Oh, you mean Euronymous?
Yeah.
Oh, he definitely didn't like the people who shopped at his store. I'll go with that one.
It's like I think
necessary evil for sure.
Yeah. Anyways.
Tom also says, I may have partially misremembered the story, but this is the man who, according to Genesis P. Orridge from
Throbbing Gristle.
God damn it, man. I can't even forget the fucking name of the band. But this is a man who, according to Genesis, enjoyed putting his nuts in a vice and seeing how tightly he could squeeze them so it wouldn't be too surprising.
Holy shit.
Christopherson would squeeze his nuts in a vice.
This hanging out with the guys from Jackass.
We need to do an episode on Coil, dude. Holy God.
Coil and
Throbbing Gristle.
Pray for our souls and Throbbing Gristle. Yeah.
We might come out different. I think we will come out different.
We did Swans. It's like, you guys had, Baby's first experimental noisy band. I mean, we've covered other ones, but that was big.
Yeah, Swans is pretty big.
Time to graduate and go to college.
Dude, if you go to Throbbing Gristle, I mean, it's far less musical. That's for damn sure.
It's all downhill. I mean, one of our earlier episodes was Beefheart, so...
I mean, I love Beefheart, and it is... I do like Throbbing Gristle quite a bit, but it's more of like watching a horror movie to me.
Okay.
Some of their albums, I've only heard a couple. The fucking Funk Greats album, I forgot what it's called. That one is... I think it's probably one of the easiest ones to get into, but so this is the from the article from Far Out that he cites here, which is interesting because he says on June 4th, 1976, the Sex Pistols played their infamous Manchester debut at the Lesser Free Trade Hall, a show that everyone and their mother has subsequently claimed to have attended. So who was actually there? And that's what makes me laugh because scientifically, most people were lying. If you're just judging...
Yes, there's no way.
No way. So the article asks, how many people were there? It says, well, according to David Nolan, author of I Swear I Was There, the gig that changed the world. It's a good name for a book. Something seems to be amiss on this front. And the quote from him says, it's funny because I think you can get 150 people in the Lesser Free Trade Hall, and by my reckoning, 7,500 were there supposedly. So something must have gone awry with the ticketing, apparently. That's quite a discrepancy. This
is a huge one.
So it asks who was amongst the crowd. Aside from the Buzzcocks and Slaughter and the Dogs who opened the show, the list of notable attendees is as follows. Joy Division, check out that episode. Factory Records founders Martin Hannett and Tony Wilson. Mick Hucknall of Simply Red. Marky Smith of The Fall. Morrissey, check out episode on the Smiths. John Cooper Clarke. And these are some quotes from Morrissey said. I mean, if you needed any reason to like him less, apparently he penned an entire epistle to the gig and the enemy in which he recalled, despite their discordant music and barely audible, audacious lyrics, they were called back for 2 encores. Yeah, dude, people like music that's not whiny. That's not sense.
I don't know how they had that much material, but
it's a good point.
Covers?
Not a cover. A lot of the covers are recorded though. It's only a handful. Who knows? Steve Diggle of the Buzzcock says that was the day the punk rock atom was split. No doubt about it. It was amazing to see. There's where it exploded from. It changed Manchester and it changed the world. And then it goes on to say, without directly giving credit to the Sex Pistols for the inspiration, Marky Smith, no shocker that he's not going to give it up to anybody. Marky Smith remarked when recalling the gig that it set him... Fuck, I can't read. When recalling the gig that it set in him a mantra He says, when I was 18, the vision was to make music that didn't exist because everything else was so unsatisfactory. So the next step in the journey of the Pistols, 1976, they start to play regularly throughout London and UK. They also played their first shows abroad in Paris. And they get signed to EMI and released Anarchy in the UK. That's their first single. Well, don't get used to them being on EMI because they were quickly sacked. They were on the Today Show, the show Today, not the Today Show in the US. And interviewer Bill Grundy goaded the band into swearing live on early evening TV. I think it was Steve Jones was the first one to start swearing, I think. And says due to the media furor, the band find themselves banned from playing live in the UK because of that. EMI then scraps the Pistols. They fucking drop them, and Matlock leaves in 1977, and that's when Sid Vicious comes in. They signed to A&M Records. 10 days later, they get dropped, and it doesn't mention it here, but the reason they got dropped was because they were celebrating at their offices for getting the deal or whatever. And they approached some BBC DJ, I forget his name, and I think Sid Vicious was drunkenly cornering him, saying, it might have been him and other members of the band, but for sure him. And they were saying like, when are we going to be on your fucking show? When are we going to be on your show? Like cornering him. And somehow a bar fight erupted. Sid Vicious stabs some engineer in the face with a broken bottle. And then they get dropped from A&M. Good reason. I would say that's a pretty good reason.
That's a good reason. That's a better reason than swearing.
It's a much better reason. So they signed to Virgin, and then they released God Save the Queen, the second single. Apparently they were attacked on the streets during this period of time. Things are blowing up. The publicity is out of control, blah, 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 blah. Later that year, they record Never Mind the Bollocks, the debut with Chris Thomas producing. And the two singles were pretty vacant in Holidays in the Sun. So that basically brings us to the album. Yeah, we've all heard of it, so we all kind of have an idea of what it is and what it sounds like. Might as well talk a little bit about the music.
Yeah,
and spent almost a half hour talking about the history.
I imagine we're some kids' introduction. People under 30 don't listen to us. Do you? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. If you do, go outside. I don't know what's happening here.
How old are you, Sid? Not Vicious.
Good question.
Our fan Sid.
Good point.
There's only one Sid.
He's 8 years old, but
he might be 8 years old
potentially. But now here it is, the one and only album. I'm going to talk a little bit about that soundtrack from that movie that came after this, but we're not going to be covering it because it's fucking wonky. But here it is, 1977's Never Mind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols.
That is a very cool soundscape to open an album with.
Yeah, the marching. It really sounds incredible, production-wise.
It does, especially compared to I'm going to go out on a limb and say hundreds of punk artists.
At least hundreds, yeah.
Also, I've not listened to this in a very long time. And I think I was just too young to care about the lyrics, but this time I was like, what the fuck is this actually about?
I don't know what that song's about. I didn't read most of the lyrics.
It's about vacationing in Berlin while they were, the wall was still up.
Oh, wow. That's actually pretty...
and well... It's maybe true. The logic was they felt like they lived in one prison. Let's go to another.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that wall was up at this point. It's crazy. So the album's good. We're not gonna have much revolutionary things to say.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, we're doing ourselves discredit. We're doing the fucking episode. Let's talk like we're doing an episode.
Yes, we should.
I think that opener fucking rules. I think this whole album actually holds up pretty damn well.
I think being older now, like I said at the top of the podcast, it was a very youthful energy where I feel like kids need this album and I don't need it as much as I don't need it as much anymore. Like I can say I'm over it.
I'm mostly over it, but I still enjoy the hell out of it. I don't have any problem with it. The only song I have a problem with that I actually think is like, what the fuck are you doing? Is Submission, because it's just a complete rebuff of All Day and All the Night by the Kinks. It's just, I mean, it's the same fucking riff. It's the same goddamn riff.
I don't have any issues with this album, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I like I said, I feel like I've grown out of it. Like I'm like, that's a fine album. I get why it's super popular. I get why people love it.
Yeah.
I don't need it in my life anymore.
I'm okay with it in my life. I fucking love it. I still love Johnny Rotten's voice. I think he has one of the most unique punk voices.
I mean, it is the snarl punk vocal.
Yeah, but like also, I don't know too many people that directly mimicked him because it's like trying to mimic Jello Biafra or something. Like it's so distinct. You'll know exactly people will know what you're trying to do if you try it. It's like it's so distinct.
I definitely don't think there was like a 1-for-1 rip off of his voice, but you can definitely hear it in other artists.
It's still very snarly, of course.
Even like a Jello.
Yeah, I suppose you're right, but it's just such a unique style too. And Steve Jones' guitar playing is it's like it was the perfect kind of playing for this band to make an impact. And I don't want to get the impression that this music was so revolutionary that's what caused it. It was a lot of the publicity and a lot of the image and a lot of McLaren, honestly, a lot of the interviews.
Which is funny because that's like the least punk anarchy thing
100%.
Ever.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things they did, like he orchestrated, was them playing a show on a boat outside a courthouse. I forget, something like that. In order to get publicity, of course, the cops came and Malcolm was arrested, which means he succeeded and it worked and it got them. So a lot of the things like that, obviously the swearing on the talk show blew them. All these things blew them up.
That's so funny how they did the boat thing and then the Clash would do the boat thing and it's just a music video.
I don't remember the boat thing from the Clash.
I don't know if they had music videos or if they called them promo videos, but I'm just going to call it that. In the music video for London Calling, they're like playing on a boat, I believe, going down the river Thames.
Well, they don't believe they were harassing city officials the way Sex Pistols.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But I feel like, obviously they probably knew about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that helped blow them up. And so that's not very what I guess we consider punk rock now, but I guess at the time, the whole point of everything was to be offensive and to shock you. And hey, fuck you. We're going to do exactly the opposite of what you think is proper. I mean, they walked around wearing swastikas. Like, were they Nazis? No, obviously not, but it was scary and that's enough. And that's why I think like if you get offended by like something that John Lydon says today, like, remember, those are the guys that are wearing swastikas. Like that's what they do. That's who they are. Most people grow up and calm down. Some people don't, but that's the kind of thing. Like you weren't willing to do that and they were. Therefore, that's part of the reason it became so fascinating and why everyone was, even if they were like threatening the guys and they hated them. It's like the Howard Stern shit. Like, you can't take your eyes off it. But the whole thing that started that whole tangent was Steve Jones' guitar playing, which is like, it's like the perfect point between rock and roll and what we now consider like a punk guitar style.
It's a good bridge.
It was the perfect bridge. Like it was chuggy and it was fat sounding and it was heavy. And it had a lot of like the rock and roll style. He still played kind of like rock and roll, but it was more raw. It was more, it was faster and choppier. And it's like, that's what you need. You need something to kind of guide you into this new thing, into this new style. And it sounds fucking awesome.
I do remember trying to get into punk rock and being kind of disappointed by the Ramones sound. And this felt more appropriate this felt more like what I had lined up in my head.
You mean like production wise or
the sound and the playing.
It's very sharp. It's a very like abrasive sound, not abrasive in like the band God.
Sure. Things evolve and change.
But it's like, if you're comparing it to the Ramones, Ramones are very poppy, very simple. It's very kind of,
I want to be your boyfriend. There is no.
Oh, I was thinking the song. That's right. I forgot about the fucking lyrics. I'm thinking about the song, the actual style.
Well, obviously that too. But yeah, there is no. I want to be your boyfriend here.
No.
There's songs about abortion.
Yeah, it's a lot gnarlier. It's way gnarlier.
and not really done in a cutesy way, the way Teenage Lobotomy is. So
it's not cute. There's nothing cute here. It's still happy. It's a very happy album. Every song feels exactly the same, but it's catchy and it's still mean, even if it's weirdly happy. But I guess that's kind of how a lot of rock and roll and blues was. It was happy, even though it was a grim genre back in the day. So back to some of the songs. Bodies was basically my favorite Sex Pistols song as a kid. It could still be, honestly.
It would be.
Is that one of the abortion songs?
That is the
okay. I don't read the lyrics. I don't fucking. All I know is that intro is fucking incredible.
Yeah,
it's one of the coolest intro. I think it's their coolest intro by far.
Mm-hmm.
And that chorus is unbelievably good. It's just fun. It's morbid, but it's fun as hell.
I found like a crazy quote from Johnny about some of the lyrics when he's singing like no feelings. I don't like this, sounds made up, but whatever. What? He said, my dad was sponsoring a lot of orphans at the time, and one of the girls just became too attracted to me. I had to tell her, look, I have no feelings. Just because my dad is letting you stay at his house for the weekend doesn't mean you can marry me. But there's the sad truth of orphans, which I've always donated money to, and they grew up with a prison-like mentality.
What the fuck is he talking about?
I don't fucking know.
Who said that?
Rotten, Johnny Rotten.
So that's where that story. So that song came from that experience,
or part of that song.
That's madness.
I'm so confused. Like your dad was sponsoring orphans, not your family or your mom, just your dad.
Well, did he live with it? Well, I don't know what that situation was like. And then I don't find that part to be fishy. I find the other parts to be fishy.
And then I love the it feels like just to be clear, I love orphans. I donate money to orphans.
They're my favorite. I love orphans.
It's very Trump-like.
I think a lot of people do that. I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah. So I was just like, I was fucking laughing.
One thing because I like John Lennon for a lot of reasons. One of them is it's like he's really like militant about whatever he believes in, but it's like it's unwavering and it's like it's based on a lot of like integrity. So like one really random thing, and it's actually kind of sad because his wife, was it Nora? His wife, Nora Forster, just died this year in April. And I think she was suffering from Alzheimer's, and he was basically her caregiver for like years. But over the years, from anecdotally, like he loved his wife. He stuck by her. Like,
I bet he did.
And I remember finding I think I might have talked about this a long, long time ago, but I don't know how I found it. It was some forum, like a groupie forum of like groupies giving their experiences with famous musicians. It could be completely fabricated, but it was all anonymous, and it was all like, it seemed like that might be real. That might be.
Yeah.
And there's all a bunch of ones like Lane Staley had a small dick, and Chino Moreno is a fucking asshole. He's always cheating on his wife. But one for Johnny Rotten was Johnny Rotten does not like groupies, and it will treat you badly, and is very loyal to his wife. like, dude, he rules. That's like that. I really appreciate that.
That is the most married man in rock music ever.
It's insanely married. It's so married. That's a fucking wild story. No Feelings, the song, on the other hand, and ridiculously good. Another ridiculously good chorus. I love it. Snarly, upbeat, hooky.
Again, one of those things is a youth, like this kind of mindlessly. I realize they have really good hooks and phrases that when you're younger, it just feels good to sing.
Yeah.
Like singing No Feelings, or, there's other things. And yeah, it's just like, oh shit, I didn't even realize you were singing about abortion. So this kind of clung on to the No Feelings part.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun. It's so fun. Fucking Problems is one of the 2 songs here over 4 minutes. Big old epic 4-minute songs.
Dude, that song is proto Motorhead.
Yeah, interesting.
I can hear so much Motorhead in that song.
Yeah, because it's not one of my favorites. I do like it. It's not one of my favorites here, but when was Motorhead? I thought, aren't they in that same time period?
I know they were inspired
by Sex Pistols?
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's fucking fascinating.
They've covered, I think, God Saves the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no way.
Yeah.
It's also possible that something was in the water, both from the UK and.
I mean, what else happened at that time period? I mean, the new wave of British heavy metal was also on the same time period.
Yeah.
God Save the Queen, obviously one of the most famous punk songs ever written. It's very strong. I don't know what else you could say. We've all heard it.
There is a sense of irony that song and Anarchy in the UK are some of the most popular songs in the world that are going to continue to be used in movies and music, probably until the end of time.
Yeah, and they've amassed such an incredible fortune. I think
probably just from those 2 songs alone.
What else is it? Well, Holidays in the Sun, pretty vacant. There's other songs that get licensed, but it's mostly those 2, of course. I think I saw a quote somewhere that is it Sid Vicious? I think it's his estate is still to this day getting like $400,000 a year.
That man shouldn't have an estate. That money should
I think it's like cousins of his. I don't like his mom. It's not like an estate. That's what they call it, but it's just like family members. I think it's still making that much money today, which
that's insane. That money should just go to the orphans that Johnny Rotten is going to give money to.
Yeah, just give them to the orphans. Just
because they have a prison-like mentality.
Honestly, I think they do. I would.
I don't know anything about orphans.
I've heard a lot of testimonies from like kids in the system. It's pretty. Yeah, it's like prison. It's pretty gnarly.
I like the idea that in Mike's free time, he's just listening to podcasts and reading literature about orphans. It's what he does for fun.
It's not far off. It's comedians that were orphans. Bobby Kelly, by the way. Yeah, that's fucking holy. It's depressing. So at least it's funnier when they tell it. But and Anarchy in the UK, obviously probably the most famous punk song in the world. It's fantastic, as we all know. I mean, the only thing I can say about it that I didn't notice before was the flanger on the guitar. I never noticed it until now for some reason.
I feel like there's 2 redheaded stepchild tracks on here, and you brought up one earlier, which is Submission.
Yeah. And
then the other one being New York.
Oh, right. I forgot about New York.
I think between the 2, I like New York better.
100%.
This because I didn't notice the Kinks thing, but they're talking shit about the New York Dolls, and I will pick the Sex Pistols.
Check out that episode
over the New York Dolls
10 times out of 10. Yeah,
without thinking about
not even thinking about it. It's not even close.
So yeah, those are like the, if you want to call them, weak tracks on a legendary album. For sure. I think I probably agree with that. New York is stuffed in a spot where it's it's inevitable to be overlooked. It's second to last track. Mm-hmm. It's of course exactly the same as every other song. Every song here feels the same. Not the same key necessarily, but
might as well be the same style of riff, the same kind of minor second progressions, which is just, one fret over if you're playing on a guitar. A lot of those kinds of riffs.
I think my favorite song, and I don't know why, but I think Pretty Vacant has got to be.
It's real strong. It's one of the bigger songs here. It's one of the most famous. It's one of the best ones, 100%.
It is a song that sticks to my ribs, always has, always will. I will just get it stuck in my head, and the only way to get it out is with a bullet.
And that's the end of the episode. Alex is going to kill himself. Song
Not
rules.
really, please don't. I can't.
Don't send.
I can't afford. I can't afford to get thrown in an institution right now. There's too much stuff.
Oh, they're going to say you can't afford a funeral. I was like, I know. That's why I don't kill myself. Can't afford it. But it's fucking. It's a great song. I mean, all the songs that are still great. I'm not really super tired of them. I mean, I'm not really excited. I don't really have the itch to listen to this album all the time. But it's like. I will never be offended by this album being on. The same with like a Ramones thing, like just always put it on. I don't care. I'll never be bothered by it.
It doesn't make me excited, but I wouldn't be like, turn that shit off. I don't think I'd ever get there.
It'd be very hard unless someone was, torturing me this
on repeat or something. Yeah.
There's a few little quirky things. The outro to Problems, which is, it's obnoxious, but I can't help but laugh at it. Where Johnny's just going blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I don't know why that makes me laugh so much, but I do like it.
This is probably going back to the opening track, Holidays in the Sun. That's probably the first time, because unlike you, I didn't have older brothers. That's probably like the first song ever I heard. What's like a home, like I know he's not homeless, but like a homeless man ranting over music. That's
some of our favorite music here.
And it really is.
And it really is. My favorite music in the world is homeless guy on mic. And I don't just mean the literal homeless Damo Suzuki from Can or Paul Mooney for that. Not Paul Mooney, Malcolm Mooney. I keep saying Paul Mooney. I
did that to you because I did that one episode.
Not the comedian Paul Mooney, Malcolm Mooney. But
Jesus Lizard.
Every noise rock band essentially.
Yeah.
But what else? 17 is. I mean, 17 is also solid with these big group vocals in the chorus.
I will say, despite being a teenager, when he says "I'm just a lazy sod," I felt that.
The man's honest. At least be honest with us.
Yes.
That's part of. I mean, it's hard to believe that before this music wasn't that honest. At least, contemporary music wasn't that like. I can't. Because that was part of the appeal of like, oh wow, these guys are real pieces of shit, and they're owning up to it.
I think that's part of the status and being a great album is I think being a musician, at least a famous one, you had to have some like level of mystique about you. And the Sex Pistols were like there is none.
Yep. Yeah, it was like a blunt weapon, just smashing things in its wake. And we have so much good shit as a result of it. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it was the perfect time for it. It was, the height of conservatism in like, dominating most of these Western countries. It was time. It was time for something to push back, and it happens to be pushed back in a very fun way. From afar, it was a very fun album. It's a fun band to entertain, to have entertaining, but in it sucked. Oh my God. Because just the stories of Sid Vicious alone, I mean, what a fucking nightmare. Last note, also EMI is a very good closer and a very fun song.
Yeah.
But if we didn't mention EMI, that'd be ludicrous. So they split up. Their last show was in San Francisco in 1978. Lydon goes back to the UK. Paul and Steve go to Brazil to team up with train robber Ronnie Biggs. And I think Lydon had a quote about that saying like, fuck that guy. He stole from people. Why is that why is he something, which I think is like, I get both sides. How often do you get a chance to play with a train robber, but also
stealing from people's pretty punk rock.
It's pretty punk rock, but also it sucks. Don't be a fucking, that guy sucks. This guy still sucks.
I want to know who he, well,
it was a train. It was just regular people I stole money from. So yeah, it's kind of shitty, but, and then Sid overdoses and is admitted to a hospital. So yeah, Johnny Rotten leaves and they put Sid Vicious as the vocalist now, which didn't really happen.
Jesus.
It didn't really, nothing. It
didn't manifest
at all.
Yeah.
The only thing that happened that's recorded are a few covers that Sid sang on. One is My Way from Frank Sinatra, and then Something Else from Bob Cochran and Sharon Sheely, and Come On Everybody from Eddie Cochran. Is that it? I think there was only 3 songs. So if you count Sid Sings, which is a live album, I guess you can count that. It's technically a Sid Vicious solo album, but Paul Cook and Steve Jones are on there. So I guess you can probably count that. But aside from that, it's only like a few covers that he sang on. And it didn't go well. Malcolm McLaren was trying to organize and film the Great Rock and Roll Swindle, which ended up getting made with Sid Vicious, Steve Jones, and Paul Cook playing small roles. Of course, Johnny Rotten denounced the whole thing and said, fuck you. And even that was a big travesty. There's a soundtrack for it, which is a bit much. It's entertaining. It has like disco versions of some songs and like orchestral versions of some songs. It has the songs with Sid Vicious on vocals, like My Way, which is pretty goofy, kind of funny. And, Come On Everybody. It's not like an essential thing. I mean, if you're a Sex Pistols fanatic, I guess, but I don't find any reason. I'm not really interested in going back to it. But I'm kind of curious about the movie, though.
As am I. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, it's a mockumentary based on the Sex Pistols, but it's not really. I mean, it's a fictionalized version of it. And the band members play roles in it, and I think it's partly animated, or it's all. I don't know how much of it is animated. Honestly, I have no fucking idea about the movie.
I'm gonna look into this.
But the reason why it's important is because that movie ended up being a big contributor of Malcolm McLaren's downfall and Sex Pistols getting the rights back and getting all the money that they were owed. So Malcolm McLaren's trying to put all that shit together. Meanwhile, Sid gets involved with Nancy Spungen. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I've never heard it out loud.
Spungen. I think that is correct.
She is a real handful. She's a schizophrenic, sometimes groupie, prostitute, heroin junkie.
They probably deserved each other.
Well, yes, in many ways, because they got involved. And she got him hooked on. I think that says she got him hooked on heroin.
No, that man was born to do heroin.
Well, apparently before he joined the Sex Pistols, he wasn't like a junkie, and that's one of the reasons they got him. He was friends with John Lydon in high school or something, and I think there was like an interview with Lydon where he was like emotional, saying that he's so sorry he ever brought him in there because he says he wasn't a very smart guy, and the only redeeming quality about his personality was how funny he was. And as soon as he joined the Sex Pistols, gone. He was just junky and he was violent.
I feel like it was gonna.
Probably
it's gonna happen anyways.
That man was walking chaos.
If it wasn't the Sex Pistols, it would have been something else.
I don't think it. If it was something else, I don't think it would have happened nearly as fast, because this was
sure you get access to things you wouldn't normally get.
Well, this is like A-list celebrity status.
Yeah,
overnight, and when you're 20 years old and you're also in this really horrific abusive relationship with this junkie and prostitute girl, you're on a path that I'm not gonna touch that path. I'm not gonna touch that. Holy shit! So there's all kinds of shit going on. His assault charges are all over the place. There's like a bunch of stories going around about like how they beat each other and how he would beat her and then she would lie about it to her family, and then she would also hit him. And it's like, okay, this is probably not going to end well. Apparently the band tried everything in their power to get rid of her, and like to even like trying to throw her on a plane back to the US because she's from, I think, Pennsylvania. But they couldn't separate them. And because of that, things kept getting worse. The story goes, they get super fucked up on these pills. They find her with a stab wound in her stomach or something, and there's money missing. And then Sid is like all delirious, saying that he killed her, but he didn't mean to. And then he comes to and he says that he doesn't remember doing any of that, doesn't remember any of it. And there's all these conflicting stories. He fucking, so much, he gets arrested a bunch of times. He gets let out. He assaults someone else. Fucking Patti Smith's brother, I think he assaults him with a broken bottle. He goes back to fucking jail.
It's a long list of people.
He's
probably assaulted more people than who were at the first gig.
But not more than people who claim to be there.
Yes.
So
maybe more than that.
Maybe. I'm mixing up all these stories because it doesn't fucking matter. He's a handful. She gets killed. He doesn't remember if he fucking killed her. He's on trial, and he gets released on bail. He goes to celebrate with a handful of people, one of which I didn't fucking know, was fucking Jerry Only.
Oh shit.
Check out the Message episode from before we had video, so audio only. And he does heroin and he overdoses. They find a suicide note saying that they had a death pact or a suicide pact, and this whole time he was just trying to kill himself so he can be with her again, and he wanted his to be buried with her, but she was Jewish, and they wouldn't allow that. So
regular Romeo and Juliet story here.
I know, it's a tragedy. So someone, I forgot who it was, they asked the Spongen's family, like, can we at least scatter his ashes like on the grave? And they're like, no, but they broke in and did it anyway because punk. He was 21 when he died. She was 20. So that's pretty fucking.
Ooh.
Jesus Christ.
Lived a lifetime though.
Oh yeah. So after he dies, it says here from the website, Malcolm continues to work on the film, and what he does, he couldn't get John Lydon back in to make music for it. He had Steve Jones and Paul Cook. So what he did was he took old rehearsal tapes, used those vocals, and then had like Steve and Paul record new tracks. And so that's why you hear John on that soundtrack. So because of this, John Lydon begins court action against Malcolm McLaren over contract rights and unpaid monies. A receiver is appointed to control the Sex Pistols' assets and the forthcoming film. So in 1986, a good while later, it says John Lydon's case against Malcolm McLaren finally comes to the High Court in London. McLaren agrees to hand control the band's assets back to the Sex Pistols. They want everything back. They want all the funds from the movie. It's all theirs. Everything. McLaren was disgraced and in debt to a lot of people.
Good.
He went on to try to fuck over many other people in the music business. I know
that's bad.
Yeah, he managed Adam and the Ants, but then he died.
But it comes with free toppings.
They're going to say that's good.
Oh.
But it comes with a free Froger, I think.
Which is also cursed.
That's bad. we just botched that Simpsons quote, but that's a good one. Yeah, so they get all the rights back, which is very good. And in 96, they reunite the original lineup with Matlock on bass. Since then they've done like a few reunions. There's another one in 2000, 2002. 2003, they did a North American tour, which they set up themselves apparently, with no help from record company or press.
I don't blame them.
Yeah. Another thing, like John Lydon, another thing that just on the nose with like his, I guess, which is why I think he's consistent. He's like, it says he offered to take Sex Pistols to Iraq to play for the people, not the troops, which is like, I think there's a quote where he was talking about how Roger Waters, you know, he's very outspoken about like he doesn't want to play for Israel because of at least before the war, you know, he wouldn't play for Israel because of the tension or whatever. And Lydon was very much of like, I'm playing for the people. I don't give a fuck what like their whole shit is. They're not the ones doing the things. They're just people, which I definitely respect that too. But that's hilarious. Going to Iraq to not play for the troops is pretty fucking funny.
I mean, I wouldn't want to play for the troops.
I would want to fucking go to Iraq. Fuck that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
Dude.
Yeah, that part too.
Fuck that. In 2003, they were nominated without their approval,
of course,
for inclusion in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which they were turned down. But in 2006, some of you might remember this, they were finally inducted, and they refused to attend. And instead, they sent a handwritten letter stating their contempt for the institution, which is, again, delightful.
It is a garbage institution.
It's fucking dog shit. Like, who are these people that decide? It's like a panel of old dudes. What like?
It's one of those things where it's like, of course, you can't please everybody, but then it's just like some of the people that have been put in this. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Also,
I think if it had more pure intentions, it'd be different. But I think most people know those intentions aren't pure. So
I just have a problem with it on a molecular level, because it's music and it's subjective. Like with sports, fuck yeah, dude. Baseball Hall of Fame. Those are stats to back it up. The stats here, how many people bought your album? That's not really an indicator of art. Like,
yeah. Art is harder to.
Yeah, I don't think it should exist. I don't think the fucking thing should exist. The Hall of Fame, not art. But also, I didn't realize this until reading this right here, that in 2007, they re-recorded Anarchy in the UK and Pretty Vacant for Guitar Hero.
Hell yeah, brother.
They did that because apparently the original multi-track masters were misplaced. Which is that's neat. It's fun. It's nice of them to go and do that. Yeah.
Who would think out of all the bands?
It's just Steve Jones being awesome. I mean, I'm sure. It wasn't just him, but
no to the Hall of Fame. Yes to video games.
Why not?
Yeah,
it's for the people.
It is for Guitar Hero was for the fucking people.
Yes, it was.
Also, fun little side note, little side quests here. Xbox 360. I've told this with you. Xbox 360 store will be closing next summer, 2024. So I'm on a quest to get all the Rock Band DLC that I want. Not all of it, because a lot
of garbage in there,
and I don't have that kind of money. But I am on a quest to complete my Rock Band library.
So join the Patreon.
So I can do that.
And for no other reason.
Or if someone wants to start no, I'm not gonna.
Don't do it.
No,
don't do it.
If people want to start a GoFundMe to contribute,
I was right. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. This is fucking hilarious, and it's just such a hilarious, such a goofy and poetic opposite of what the band initially stood for. It says Pretty Vacant was featured in the opening ceremony of the London Olympics. Just like, it's just the most mainstream thing.
Yeah. Also, at least it wasn't Anarchy in the UK. At least someone was like, that's too much.
It's a little on it. Yeah. So Malcolm McLaren died of how do you say that? Mesothelioma. I can't say that fucking word.
No one can. I didn't even think it's real. You ever stay home when you're sick as a kid and you see the infomercials for it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, dude.
If you or a loved one is suffering from mesothelioma, you may be entitled to a cash settlement.
There it is. And apparently,
I don't have the phone numbers.
I'm surprised McLaren didn't cash in on that, being a fucking swindler that he is. But he died in a Swiss hospital in 2010. He was 64. John Lydon continues to make music for Public Image Limited. Their most recent album came out this year in August, called End of World. And the lead single Hawaii is a tribute to his late wife Nora Foster, who died on April 6th, 2023. Foster had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2018. From then on, Lydon was apparently her full-time carer when not on tour. God damn, that's a brutal 5 years, man. Steve Jones lives in LA and continues to host his weekly radio show, Jonesy's Jukebox.
Damn, that's still going. Huh?
Well, no, it's not on Indie 103.1 anymore, because that's not a radio station anymore. It was there, and then it was like, I forget where it moved to, some other place, and then it moved to K-Rock, and then it moved somewhere else. I forget.
It's moved around a lot.
Sure has.
That's all that matters.
Since he had a heart attack in 2019. Before that, he was doing it every day. Now he only does it once a week. Tom says you can watch many of his interviews on YouTube. I mean, he's a really entertaining guy.
Yeah.
He says he's had a ton of legends on the show, from Stuart Copeland. Check out the fucking Police episode. To Josh Homme, check out Caius, Them Cricket Vultures, the new Queens of Stone Age album. We've done all these episodes. To Gary Oldman. And he says, of course he has. He's the man.
You know what? I'm going to look up that Gary Oldman episode. That must be interesting.
I saw a couple paraphrasing of what he said. Apparently he hated the movie Sid and Nancy, and he detests punk rock. So Gary Oldman can go fuck himself.
No. He's a gem.
He's one of the best actors.
I won't tolerate that.
He's one of the best actors, but go fuck yourself, dude. Punk rules. Punk rules.
You leave that old man alone.
Just because that's his name.
Wow,
I'll forgive him just because of his role in Tiptoes.
Tiptoes, Fifth Element.
Fifth Element was pretty sick. All right, I'll give him that.
Batman movies.
He was also the only good part of Dracula. That's probably a controversial opinion. I didn't like that movie at all.
That is controversial opinion. I shouldn't stand for that either.
I think the movie is pretty hokey, and some of the special effects are like strange, but him as Dracula was incredible. Especially even like his makeup and special effects was incredible as well.
It's the only, or maybe only a handful of horror movies that feels like a fucking fever dream.
It does. Some of the parts are very strange.
Tom Waits is in it for some reason.
Is he?
The worst part about that movie is fucking Keanu Reeves.
Of course, he can't do a British accent, and he's trying to.
And even then, that adds some weird David Lynchian element to it.
There's like wonkiness that I like. Toward the end, there's a shot. No, it's not a spoiler. It's a shot where he's on a horseback outside.
Also, it's like
it's 30-year movie. Yeah. Came out over 30 years ago.
Read the fucking book.
But he's on a horseback, and it's supposed to be like dusk or like sunset. And he's on a horseback, and but you could clearly tell he's just in a room with colored lighting. It's like, it's like this won an Oscar for special effects, and like how, like it's obviously he's in a room. I
love the way it looks.
Really?
Oh,
you love it.
I love the way that movie looks. I don't know if it won for special effects, but it 100% did win for costume design.
Maybe that's what I don't know. Yeah, maybe I could see that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I wasn't expecting to talk about Dracula this much.
He has a fucking suit. The most I think Gary Oldman was complaining about that weird suit of armor that doesn't.
Oh yeah, the red one.
He's like, I can't fucking move in this.
It doesn't look very comfortable.
Also, there's rumors that Ford Coppola didn't really direct it, that he was just kind of checked out, and he let like his son or someone.
So is he also just following the path of Marlon Brando?
No,
because he was also the guy who just checked out and stopped reading lines, just ad-libbed everything.
I don't know what Ford Coppola's deal is, but I saw this video where they're like, they think he's like a weird dude, but really, would you rather be Ford Coppola or George Lucas? One of them is making wines and supporting his daughter and seems happy all the time. The other one is just fucking miserable, begrudgingly dealing with a franchise he fucking hates.
Honestly, if you sold it, you should go into your little home, your giant home.
Yes.
Fucking relax, dude. Jesus Christ, you fucking frog.
He always said he was an independent experimental filmmaker, but he had 30, 40 fucking years. Sorry, we're way off track.
We all know George Lucas is a complete hack, and he had great collaborators. Like with many great works of art, you find out that it was
like Sid Vicious.
He was just a poster boy. He had the look.
He's an idea man.
He had no ideas. His idea was to get hammered and break bottles.
Yeah.
He literally did nothing except look punk. That was his job. That's why he was brought on to look punk. It worked.
Lame.
Yeah, he stunk. He really stunk across the board. But Apparently, Paul Cook continues to play drums in various projects. Glen Matlock continues to make music, most recently as Glen Matlock and the Philistines. And their latest album, Consequences Coming, came out earlier this year. And Tom notes here, Sid Vicious continues to be dead.
Sure does.
Sure does. Also, one thing that I forgot to mention of Glen Matlock's importance to the band, I said he wrote all the music. So when you replace the member who writes all the music, they wrote 2 songs after he left. That was the band. 2 songs. They were destined to crumble and die.
Yeah.
Like that was what was meant to happen. I mean, come on.
Just a supernova.
Yeah. It did its job, man. Which is interesting too, because I believe the Damned were the first British punk band to tour the US, and they had a pretty good run. A lot of great albums. Long career. I think they're still going, honestly. I forget though. But yeah, this is the scary band, the one that scared people and drew all the attention. This is definitely the supernova, 100%. But there it is. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We finally covered one of the most famous albums in the world, because why not? We have a podcast where we talk about music, and sometimes it's fun to talk about stuff that you've heard 1,000 times. Don't worry. Next week, it will not be nearly as popular. Do not worry.
We went on a string of not popular things. We need to rebound.
Yeah. Because we cover plenty of we love covering obscure shit, but sometimes it gets too obscure, extremely obscure. And even then, let's bring it back a little bit.
That's coming from Mike.
Exactly. There's a sweet spot. Our sweet spot is Fugazi, Ween, Butthole Surfers. That's no means no. That's a sweet spot of cult fan bases and supporters, but they clearly haven't broken in the way that, they're household names by any means. But I still love the bullshit. Still love all of the tiny, unknown, crazy, weird bands that you should never put on in front of polite company. But yeah, I guess that wraps it up for this one. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you like us and hate us, I don't fucking care. Leave a comment. You do it if you want. It doesn't matter, but you matter.
But it does, because the algorithm. So leave a comment.
Man, fuck the algorithm.
That's also why we
do need
the
it.
Sex Pistols, because the algorithm.
Maybe. Who knows? This is probably going to get 80 views. Fucking whatever. We'll see how it goes. Just do what you please to help us. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you want to hang out with us longer, and check our backlog. We've done 1 million fucking episodes. We've undoubtedly covered many bands that you like, and you're probably going to hate us for what we said about them, but it's okay. Follow me on all social media at PanderMonkey. And Alex on Instagram at
Every Album Alex.
Please follow our history guy, Tom Osman, at Tom Osman Sounds on all social media, as well as TomOsmanSounds.com. He does a bunch of work for us. He gets us albums. He gets us interviews. He gets us info. And he also puts out music. You can find links to both his albums in the description, as well as a link to my EP in the description as well. And last but not least, Patreon, baby. Patreon.com/everyalbumever. That's where you go. You get bonus episodes. You get to see our schedule in advance. You get to vote on polls to decide who we cover next. You get to join our Discord, be a part of our very fun community, and hang out with us there, as well as suggest new albums for our EAE singles episodes. We pick all the suggestions out of Discord. And if you're tier 2, then you could suggest a full discography for us to cover on these longer numbered episodes. Well, this one wasn't long, but whatever. They're usually much longer. In addition to suggesting a full episode and full discography, you can also suggest individual albums from any discography that you want to talk about on a bonus episode on Patreon, where it'll stay exclusive to there. So go there, do that. Thank you. I think that about does it.
It does do it.
Now, what are we going to listen to?
Bodies.
Let's do Bodies, baby. Hell yeah.
So let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. See ya.